No, John. Wrong production. Yeah, we don't have enough money for that one.
Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Hey, Ron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, it is Friday, so you guys know what that means. It is time for our Friday feature with a very special guest, Mr. Meta Jerk himself, the one, the only. I tried to find a movie in relating to Hampshire, and the only one I could really find was a 2009 horror thriller, Hampshire, A Ghost Story, which is ironically a little bit fitting for this footage and for this scenario. As you guys know, Meta Jerk is a North American community contributor, a rather talented one at that. His combination of Kraken hunting ability, as well as, insert movie quotes into into the footage as well, is just a talented production that we are certainly missing, which is why the Ghost Story is fitting. Meta had this game a couple weeks ago with the Hampshire rental, and he said, "Hey Aaron, do you want it? I'm just kind of tired of making videos." And honestly, I can't blame him. The game has gotten incredibly stale. And now, granted, I think Meta and all of the CCs would agree, something we've been playing for 4 years will eventually get stale, but I think it's just the refusal of wargaming to adjust simple things such as spawns or change the maps or anything like that. But hopefully a few of those things are on the way, and in the meantime we have an epic replay from him. So I will link his channel down below. I am 99.9% sure all of you already follow him. If not, go ahead and check out his channel. He has a bunch of very entertaining videos. But alas, let's get to the gameplay. Ironically, we are on the map Trap, which is one of the maps that has those pretty abysmal spawns, with the center spawns each facing the opposite cap. For example, on this side, you can see that the B spawn is facing the C side, and on the Reds, their B spawn is facing this A side. Meta takes a pretty aggressive approach. He saw that destroyer there as his destroyer goes down in record time. And guys, I hope you stay tuned till the end of the video, and I hope I do this video justice, because this is just one of those epic replays, which is both a horror and a thriller from start to finish. Here he is pushed around this A side, as we mentioned. He has his Hydro on, and he has caught this Z-35 in his smoke. He is at risk of being, fired upon by those cruisers and battleships in the middle there, but he's kind of, continually pushing around while those ships are distracted. You can see he does have the target indicator, which he's targeted by one ship, most likely that Z, which tells us it's probably true, as that target indicator has gone away now. He was running William Tennant with Makawa and Takeo as inspirations. He said that's just the build he was running. Don't ask him about it. I will try and have him comment, but we all know he is a man of the working class, not available for YouTube comments on the ready. But he decides to push around here, dodging the Implacables planes in the meantime, and that is when this Cleveland just decides to be within 6 kilometers of another cruiser and not pay attention, and that is when the AP of the Hampshire shows itself. A disgusting salvo with only 4 of them hitting, but 1 Citadel. These 203mm guns absolutely slap, and this Cleveland's lucky that he honestly hasn't been depth struck. I have no idea what this Cleveland was looking at, but that is 2 salvos, and the Brandenburg actually wipes him off the board. So right off the bat, this aggressive push has worked very well for his team. He hasn't been targeted by those battleships in the middle, but that's because his team is sort of pushed through into Bravo there and developed a strong aggressive presence. When you get an aggressive team, you can absolutely do what Meta has done here. The problem is sometimes you get those passive backlining battleships that don't really want to help, and honestly you can see a few of them at sea there. But that battleship in the middle greatly helped relieve a little bit of the pressure on this A flank here. And thanks to Meta's push, they have wiped off 3 ships right off the bat here. But stay tuned as this game gets a lot more interesting. You will also notice that Meta has circled back to his side instead of pushing aimlessly ahead. Eventually, those battleships probably would have noticed him and given him some unnecessary damage. So by circling back and kind of seeing, what his team is doing, developing a little bit of a map awareness and crossfire here, he can reposition and then go where his team needs him. By pushing aimlessly ahead, he probably would have been focused by the carrier. Now he's getting focused anyway, doing a pretty good job of actively dodging. You kind of want to just, when the carrier's at the top of their apex there, that is when you give them a hard turn, especially with the bombs, and an excellent example of that as the Implacable misses all of those carpet bombs there. So while we talked about aggression, if you do not pay attention and push aimlessly ahead, it will come back to bite you. Meta also does a good job of using overview camera and looking at the salvo coming, I believe is from the Bismarck or one of the other battleships in the middle there, and dodging that appropriately. So by paying attention, it's not an easy thing to do, but it is something that is very attainable for most players to simply pay attention to the battlefield. He had a carrier. He knew there was a carrier. He also knew those battleships were there. So by aimlessly pushing into, further on north there, it would have been, just not the ideal play. Instead, he was able to kind of circle back, avoid the carrier, avoid a few of those battleship salvos, as we mentioned. And now you can see this Florida is kind of pushing in, and he is able to have free access to that broadside. And guys, let me tell you, you do not want this ship to catch you broadside. As the Cleveland has already figured out, this AP absolutely smacks. 10 203 millimeter British AP shreds pretty much anything it gets access to. If you can angle to it, this ship, you can make the ship slightly ineffective, but that is part of the balancing factor of this ship. The high rate of DPM, the insane AP salvos you can get. That wasn't the best one, but as you can see, just as we mentioned here, this Florida is angling, but as you can see, Meta is raising his aim and trying to get, those penetrations on the superstructure there. In the meantime, he's actually working his way into the A-cap while simultaneously defending the B-cap. Just an excellent play all around. And I've mentioned this before, but make sure you guys are watching, a host of different creators, right? Meta, Chili, Durka are all great content creators, although Chili actually recently left the CC program just due to boredom. But if you're watching a bunch of different people, you're going to get a bunch of different, strategies and things like that. As we see Meta once again using overview camera to take a peek at that battleship on the middle behind B there in the north. If you're paying attention to the mini-map, his team is kind of sitting there at C. So if he can, get this flank, potentially he could push into the backfield at this time. There's a few ships that have been wiped, and those ships are kind of just hanging there. But this position here, he's able to get broadsides and access to these few battleships kind of lingering around B. As soon as A and B are both secured, that is when you can kind of take that more forward aggressive push. As we've talked about so many times, there's not a one-size-fits-all strategy, but utilizing the mini-map and seeing, what is going on the other side of the map is truly how you're going to become a better player. But here, Meta is just kind of farming defend ribbons. He has also gotten a solo cap in a cruiser. If you guys did not know, at least on the PC version of this game anyway, the larger your ship, the more XP the cap is worth. Also something to note on that salvo there, the Florida did fire its rear turret, and Meta did angle. Now, of course, the Florida only has 14-inch guns, and I actually forget the armor scheme on the Hampshire. But by angling in like that and angling your armor belt, such as Meta just did once again, you are able to bounce shells from battleships even if they overmatch your bow. Now, the bow of some ships is very large, and if players know where to aim, they'll just punch right through you. But by kind of showing that front little armor plate there, right under the second turret, at approximately 15 to 30 degrees, is right in the auto bounce region, which is the little skirt of your armor belt in which you want to show, especially in a ship like this. I do believe the Hampshire has a weak bow, but that main armor belt, which is more or less the Citadel plating, is very protected. But as we just talked about, the A and B caps are secure, so Meta decides that it is time to go damage chasing. He doesn't really have that much damage, but like I said at the beginning, please stay tuned as this game is just getting started, really. I think he almost, I don't want to say triple, but he almost triples this damage total. And starting with this Florida coming around the corner here. The Florida is distracted by a cruiser behind him. You can see that cruiser is actually broadside on the mini-map, and the Florida makes a very critical error in opening up his broadside. You can see even at that angle, Meta got a Citadel. I don't know the full pen or the full stats of this AP, but it is truly disgusting. Just getting Citadel after Citadel on battleships is truly funny to me. It's one of those, this is the moment cruiser players live for. Now, he does launch the torps, but he actually didn't need them. He gets the rear turrets around. The Florida is not loaded. Good night. Thanks for playing. And that is when Meta notices the carrier is 13 or 12.9 kilometers away from him and closing. And that is when he unleashes his AP on that broadside implacable, aiming right about where I would aim, slightly above waterline there, so those shells land perfectly in the Citadel, achieving the high caliber. And like we just talked about, he had 78k. He is already up to 130. The planes from the implacable do drop on Meta, causing a double fire. He put one out, or it went out, and then another double fire, so he actually put that out and popped his heal. The super heal from this ship is pretty good to save you from that chunky damage that you may take getting into position. But in that 30 seconds of me blabbering, Meta obliterated the carrier. Just a perfect distance for these shells to arm. And here is actually a great play. When I watch this back, this is a perfect play right here. The carrier planes are coming. There's a battleship right there. The battleship shoots. Thank goodness it's HE. It could have potentially overmatched him, or maybe, I don't think there's enough angle to get through the deck here. But as soon as the battleship shoots, he turns away from the carrier. Now, they were torpedo planes, potentially a risky turn, but what the carrier planes are not going to do is dev strike him. They could damage him very badly, but he's actually completely turned out of them. And here you can see he actually gets right in between the torpedoes here. I think potentially maybe a little touch of an overturn, but he's dodging the battleship, which is the more dangerous threat. The torpedo does connect, but you can see because of this turn, he's behind this island here. He has positioned himself beautifully, and in the meantime, he was actually getting salvos away on that Bismarck. To total his damage at 175,000. So nearly 100,000 damage in 90 seconds there, just truly amazing. As this Mines quickly finds out you do not want to be broadside, the Mines looks like he was controlling things on this side, but Meta has now access to his broadside. And yes, I don't know how it didn't, that's one of those salvos that just truly befuddles me, but it was enough to tick the Confederate, the true test of a cruiser player's talent, and he actually connects one, must have been right on the nose or the antenna there, and quickly transitions to the Bismarck. Count it down for me, 3, 2, good night, Mr. Bismarck. Thanks for playing. A beautiful finish of the Bismarck to send him into kill number 5. Double strike, Kraken, as I think the horn or the legendary perk, legendary guys there goes off. 192,000 damage, 15 citadels, 19 planes, 18 of which being anti-aircraft and 1 of which being fighter-to-fighter. Meta, couldn't you have gotten 20 planes to get the clear sky? But just a fantastic finish. Now, some people may argue that these were paid actors, and you could certainly put a few of them into the paid actor fund, but it's just playing the game, and sometimes that's what you have to do. You just have to keep playing. You have to keep trying. The game is not going to give you 9 bad opponents with 8, mediocre teammates every time. But what you can do is put yourself in the right position, know the strengths and weaknesses of your ship, go for the caps, go for the team plays, and just do your best. Now, that's something that I could probably say to myself 3 times a night as we get frustrated with teammates, but it's truly, games like this that keep us wanting more. And unfortunately, you can see time is running out, but Meta still has some health and some nasty British AP to give to this Veneto. Now, one of the worst targets to shoot at, especially in an AP-only ship, is an angled Italian battleship. They don't have much superstructure health. On top of that, they also don't really have that much. They are very protected in terms of their armor scheme. Very strong nose plating, and very, when angled, the Italian battleships are some of the toughest opponents to get damage from. Now, that being said, you actually saw that Meta incapacitated one of the Veneto's turrets with his AP, which is one of those balancing factors and weaknesses from the Italian. So just aim for the turrets. Now, depending on the caliber and your penetration, if you're in a cruiser, other than the Hampshire, you're probably not going to be potentially knocking turrets on a battleship, but that just shows how strong this AP is here. But as we mentioned, the time is running down, but I want you to take note of these torpedoes because Meta actually launched a few blind set, or at least one set of zoning torps in the beginning of the game that I do remember, and it kind of reminds me of myself. You look at that torpedo track as he actually knocks the Veneto's turret again, but then all of a sudden, the Veneto turns due to the carrier planes, and he's online with those torpedoes. Now, if you know anything about the travel time of torpedoes, you know that they are not going to reach the target in the 16 seconds that are left in the game. But a beautiful set of torpedoes, and it's those torpedoes which almost are more fun when you connect. Yes, if you have a 16% torpedo accuracy, I'm sure you're great at connecting torpedoes at 2 kilometers. So, firing those blind torps or predictive torps are a lot more fun when you connect. But that is the game. 208,000 damage, 4383. That will stand to be the Hampshire XP record for at least until it's released. But who knows? The Anchorage was buffed, so hopefully they see this video and buff the Hampshire as well. But Meta, thank you for allowing me to have this footage. Again, make sure you guys check out his channel. That is Friday feature. I'm feeling a lot better. I think my allergies were really getting to me, but I will see you guys tonight. I love you guys. Show Meta some love in the comments down below. Aaron out. Peace.